Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. I was here several weeks ago for my first visit to our Buffalo office and said I would be here often, and I am back again, and I'm proud today to be back here to announce the largest heroin bust in the history of Buffalo. We have here well in excess of $3.5 million worth of narcotics that we've taken off the streets, and I'm proud to say that our work has shut down a major heroin pipeline between the Bronx and Buffalo. I'm joined here by Mayor Byron Brown and by the police superintendent, Joseph D'Amico, who was the head of our investigators at the Attorney General's office, so he really was there when we started the case, and now he's here leading one of our law enforcement partners as we finish the case. We also have representatives from the Buffalo Police Department, Sheriff's Department, the U.S. Border Patrol, and I have to say that this investigation was really a model of cooperation, and I was incredibly impressed with everyone's ability to put their egos on hold, to cooperate, and make sure that we got this done. It was an 11-month investigation that culminated today when the officers of various local law enforcement agencies, along with our statewide partners, came in, arrested. I think we now have 13 of 15 people apprehended who are on the chart you see here, and we had a judge this morning unseal a 51-count indictment charging possession, sale, conspiracy to distribute narcotics, and charging the leaders of this ring under the drug kingpin statute, which was just enacted into law in 2009. This was a great classic bit of police work, street-level purchases leading to identification of cell phone numbers, working their way up the chain to identify the folks who were running this, who were, in fact, drug kingpins. We learned the identity of Fernando Rodriguez and got warrants for electronic surveillance, and were able to piece together the entire pattern of drugs that were running from Valentine Avenue in the Bronx right up to Gill Alley here in Buffalo. There were 3 different actions in which the drugs were seized. In August of last year, a portion of the narcotics were seized in Buffalo. So some of the traffickers were intercepted en route from the Bronx to Buffalo in October of last year, and then in November there was a final sting where 5.5 kilos of heroin were intercepted and confiscated in the Bronx and Manhattan. So what this means is, because really 1/10 of a gram of heroin is a dose, is that there are a lot less drugs running around our streets. And these people, it's very important to understand that this operation, which was called Operation Horse Trail, is a very significant blow. We've taken a lot of dangerous drugs off the streets. We've taken a lot of dangerous drug dealers off the streets. But the work goes on, and we're going to continue to work with our partners to make sure that whether you're in the Bronx or you're in Buffalo, we make it as hard as possible to conduct this sort of operation. Our techniques improve, our strategies improve, our electronic surveillance improves, and we're going to make it harder and harder and harder to distribute and sell drugs in the state of New York. And I now am honored to present a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, someone who has made a significant change here in Buffalo and expressed a relentless commitment to getting drugs off the streets, Mayor Byron Brown.
Thank you very much, Attorney General Schneiderman. I appreciate it. The Attorney General indicated to me some time ago that he would be here in Buffalo often. I'm glad to see him back in Buffalo so soon for such a significant announcement. Crime is going down in the city of Buffalo, and I think one of the reasons for that is because of the tremendous law enforcement cooperation that we have. Not only at the federal level, but state level, of course, and local law enforcement agencies all working together. I was talking to some of the law enforcement personnel, and they mentioned that the bare minimum of what these drugs that were seized would mean on the streets of the city of Buffalo is at least 160,000 hits. That's at least bare minimum. at least 160,000 sales of heroin that could have taken place in the city of Buffalo. My administration has worked very aggressively to crack down on illegal drugs, illegal guns, gang members. Our police department speaks all the time about the tremendous law enforcement partnership. I want to thank Attorney General Schneiderman for his leadership, for being so aggressive and so focused on continuing that partnership. We have a new superintendent of the New York State Police, Superintendent D'Amico. I want to thank him for his focus. Our police department partners in so many ways with the New York State Police that have really helped us to be more effective in our law enforcement focus. One of our deputy police commissioners is standing here with us, Charles Tomaszewski. He formerly headed up the Drug Enforcement Administration office here in Buffalo, and we're pleased to have him as part of this law enforcement partnership. But it's leadership like this from Attorney General Schneiderman that is sending the kind of message that we want to send to the drug dealers, and that is that behavior is not wanted anywhere in New York State, whether it is the Bronx or whether it is Buffalo. Law enforcement is going to work together to make it harder and harder to peddle that poison on the streets of our communities all across the state. So I thank the Attorney General for his leadership. I thank the state police and the other law enforcement agencies for their diligent work on this. And we are very pleased to report today that because of this bus, the streets of the city of Buffalo are much safer today. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to hear from Police Superintendent D'Amico.
Thank you, Attorney General Schneiderman. It's an honor to be standing here today announcing the culmination of such a good case. This case was initiated in January 2010 by our Western New York Police Community Narcotics Enforcement Team, we refer to as CNET, and the Attorney General's Organized Crime Task Force. It's particularly worth noting that although this investigation began in the Buffalo area, it quickly was traced back to its roots in the New York City area. The heroin trafficking organization moved its products from the Bronx using the New York State Thruway system to communities of Rochester and Buffalo. The New York State Police and the Attorney General's Organized Crime Task Force were ideally suited as a team to pursue this type of trafficking network. As a result of the investigation, a total of 7 kilos of heroin were seized, as you've heard. Its impact will be realized on the streets of Buffalo for a long time. I mean, just consider the negative effect that this amount of heroin would have had on the communities of upstate New York. I would like to recognize the work of the following state police units that were involved in this case. The CNET team from Western New York under the leadership of Major Wayne Olson. The Special Investigations Unit out of White Plains under the leadership of Major Matt Renneman. Members of Troop A and Troop NYC. I would particularly like to recognize State Police Lieutenant George Nohai and Senior Investigator Roger Williams of the Special Investigations Unit for their diligent investigative efforts in this case. Special thanks to all our law enforcement partners, to the Attorney General, to the Organized Crime Task Force under the leadership of Deputy Attorney General Perry Kadenoff and their investigative team, and the U.S. Border Patrol for their assistance in the case. Lastly, I'd like to thank the Erie County Sheriff's Department and the Buffalo City Police Department for their assistance with today's arrests, as well as our partners in New Jersey and other jurisdictions who executed search warrants on our behalf. The excellent interagency cooperation of the various law enforcement agencies involved in this investigation has resulted in the elimination of a major pipeline of heroin that comes from New York City to the Western New York region. Thank you.
Thank you, and I also would like to note before we take questions that we're joined here today by Investigator Ever Quinones, who along with OCTF Chief Thomas Mullen and Perry Cavanaugh, as already mentioned, and the State Police Supervising Investigator Charles Torres played key roles in this. Also, the Assistant Attorneys General who are moving forward with the case and were in court today are with us as well. So with that, we'll take questions.